Think tomatoes and strawberries are the peak of backyard gardening? The Vikings would have laughed. These ancient Norse settlers grew tough, nutrient-packed fruits and vegetables that thrived in brutal climates and put modern superfoods to shame. They weren't just farming for survival, they were cultivating medicine, flavor, and resilience, long before we had seed catalogs. While today's grocery stores rely on the same tired imports, the Viking garden exploded with color, variety, and rugged crops that needed almost no pampering. These forgotten edibles could outlast frost, fight illness, and taste like nothing you've ever tried. Get ready to meet the fruits and vegetables that Viking farmers grew that might just rescue your garden and your health from modern monotony. Jujubes, the traveler's friend. Long before energy bars existed, Vikings had jujubes, small, date-like fruits that provided concentrated nutrition for long journeys and harsh winters. These remarkable fruits traveled the Silk Road from China to reach European gardens, proving their worth by surviving thousands of miles of transport. What made jujubes special was their incredible durability. Fresh jujubes start crisp like apples, then gradually dry on the tree, becoming chewy and sweet like dates. This natural dehydration process created portable food that could last for months without spoiling, perfect for Viking voyages and winter storage. The trees themselves are survivors. They can handle drought, poor soil, extreme temperatures, and neglect that would kill other fruit trees. Once established, jujube trees are virtually indestructible, producing fruit for decades with minimal care. They're like having insurance against gardening failure. The nutritional profile is impressive. Jujubes are packed with vitamin C, antioxidants, and natural sugars that provide quick energy. Traditional medicine valued them for treating insomnia and anxiety, and modern research suggests these traditional uses have scientific merit. For today's busy families, jujubes offer something unique: homegrown snacks that kids actually love. The fruits are naturally sweet, fun to eat, and provide healthy energy without artificial additives. It's like having a candy tree that's actually good for you. The trees are also beautiful ornamentals. They have attractive, glossy leaves, small, fragrant flowers, and interesting zigzag branching patterns that provide winter interest. The fruits hang like small ornaments, adding visual appeal throughout the growing season. Growing jujubes today means having access to an ancient superfruit that's perfectly adapted to modern challenges. These trees thrive in areas with water restrictions, poor soil, and extreme weather, making them perfect for climate-conscious gardeners. Skirit, Siam Cisarum, was essentially the Viking equivalent of a long-term investment portfolio, except instead of accumulating money, it delivered sweet, fibrous roots that tasted superior to anything you could purchase at today's markets. The Vikings knew this plant as krumrot or gerla, and it represented the ultimate plant-it-and-forget-it crop. While contemporary gardeners pamper their vegetables with continuous watering, pristine soil conditions, and temperature-controlled environments, Skirit simply performed its magic underground without complaint. You established it once, and these sweet white roots expanded year after year without requiring any assistance from you. It functioned like having an investment account that produced vegetables instead of earning interest. But here's what made Skirit genuinely extraordinary: the flavor profile. These slender white roots were naturally more sugary than carrots or parsnips, so delectable that medieval aristocracy insisted on them in their royal gardens. Archaeological evidence demonstrates that while direct Viking-era discoveries are scarce, early medieval documentation confirms this plant was treasured throughout northern Europe. The roots contained abundant starch and natural sugars, featuring pinnate green foliage and extensive taproots that could penetrate deep into soil for nutrients. Vikings consumed Skirit both raw and cooked, frequently sweetening it with honey to create what amounted to medieval confectionery. The roots could be boiled, roasted, or transformed into sweet delicacies that made harsh winter dining tolerable. What made it especially precious was its dependability during severe Nordic winters when other crops completely failed. By the 18th century, we had discarded this cold, hardy champion for potatoes, which demanded ideal conditions and constant monitoring. It's like exchanging a dependable work truck that starts every morning for a luxury vehicle that malfunctions every winter. Skirit was labor-intensive to harvest and produced lower yields than modern crops, but it provided something far more valuable: guaranteed food security in an unpredictable climate. Nespoli, loquats, the first taste of spring. Imagine having fresh, sweet fruit ready to eat in early spring when everything else is just starting to bloom. That's the magic of Nespoli, also known as loquats, golden fruits that ripen when winter pantries are at their emptiest and and fresh food is most precious. These unusual fruits have a growing cycle that's completely backwards from other fruit trees. They bloom in autumn, survive winter as tiny green fruits, then ripen in early spring when their sweet, peachy flavor is most welcome. For Viking farmers, Nespoli represented hope, the first fresh fruit after months of preserved foods. The flavor is unlike anything else. Imagine a cross between peach, mango, and citrus, all wrapped up in a fruit that grows in cold climates. The flesh is soft and juicy when ripe, with a unique texture that's both refreshing and satisfying. It's like having tropical fruit that grows in temperate gardens. What made Nespoli truly valuable was their timing. They provided fresh vitamin C and natural sugars exactly when winter-weary bodies needed them most. Viking families with Nespoli trees had a significant health advantage during the critical transition from winter to spring. The trees themselves are beautiful evergreens with large, tropical-looking leaves that provide year-round interest. The autumn flowers are fragrant and attract beneficial insects when little else is blooming. It's like having a piece of the Mediterranean growing in your backyard. For modern gardeners, Nespoli offers something unique: fresh fruit when nothing else is available. While grocery stores are still selling expensive, shipped produce, you'll be harvesting sweet, fresh fruit from your own tree. It's the ultimate in local, seasonal eating. The nutritional benefits are impressive. Nespoli are rich in vitamin A, vitamin C, and antioxidants that support immune function and eye health. They're also high in pectin, making them perfect for natural jams and preserves that set without added thickeners. Growing Nespoli today means having access to a fruit that's rarely available commercially. These trees are hardy, productive, and provide fruit that will amaze anyone who tries it. It's like having a secret weapon in your garden arsenal. Next comes a plant so precious that medieval Icelanders actually criminalized stealing it from your neighbor's garden: Angelica. Orachch Angelica, known to Vikings as kavan, wasn't merely another herb. This imposing plant, with its distinctive umbrella-shaped flower clusters, functioned as the multi-tool of the medieval garden. Archaeological locations in Norse settlements, like Hackberry, contain abundant Angelica seeds and pollen, demonstrating that Vikings maintained entire kvangardar, dedicated Angelica gardens. A 13th century Icelandic statute explicitly forbade stealing Angelica from someone else's garden, which reveals precisely how valued this plant was. Picture contacting law enforcement today because someone pilfered your parsley. That's how crucial Angelica was to Viking society. This towering, umbelliferous herb offered protection against something that claimed sailors' lives for centuries: scurvy. Nearly every portion of the plant served a purpose. Vikings utilized the young stems and roots as vegetables, the seeds and leaves as sweet seasonings with an anise-like taste, and the entire plant for medicinal purposes. Icelanders continue making tea from Angelica seeds today and employ the leaves to flavor fish, preserving a tradition spanning over a millennium. Medieval documentation even considered Angelica a plague treatment, though we understand now that its genuine value lay in its substantial vitamin C content. This made it extraordinarily valuable for extended sea expeditions when fresh vegetables were impossible to preserve. Vikings had resolved the scurvy problem centuries before the British Navy discovered that citrus fruits could prevent it. The plant demonstrates extreme cold tolerance and flourished in Norse gardens, where other herbs would freeze. As trade routes introduced new spices and flavoring agents to Europe, Angelica's cultivation declined. Today, it grows wild in many regions or survives only in heritage gardens, a living reminder of Viking agricultural wisdom. Meddler, the fruit that gets better with age. Next, let's look at perhaps the most misunderstood fruit in history, the Meddler. Vikings called it by some rather colorful names we won't repeat here, but they absolutely loved eating it. This small, brown fruit looks like a cross between an apple and a rose hip, and it teaches us that good things really do come to those who wait. Here's what makes Meddlers special. You can't eat them fresh off the tree. They need to blet first, essentially controlled rotting where the fruit sits for weeks until it turns soft and brown. It sounds awful, but the transformation is magical. The hard, bitter fruit becomes sweet, creamy, and tastes like apple butter mixed with dates and cinnamon. Viking farmers treasured Meddlers because they ripened in late autumn and could be stored through winter, providing fresh fruit when nothing else was available. The bletting process actually increased the fruit's nutritional value, concentrating sugars and developing complex flavors that couldn't be achieved any other way. Modern gardeners are rediscovering Meddlers for their incredible incredible hardiness and unique flavor. These trees can survive temperatures down to -25 degrees Fahrenheit and thrive in poor soil where other fruit trees struggle. Once established, they require virtually no care and can live for centuries, providing fruit for generations. The health benefits are impressive too. Meddlers are packed with vitamin C, antioxidants, and pectin, the same compound that helps jams set naturally. Viking herbalists used Meddler preparations to treat digestive issues, and modern research suggests they were onto something. The fruit's high tannin content provides natural antimicrobial properties. For today's gardeners, Meddlers offer something no grocery store fruit can provide: the satisfaction of patience rewarded. In our instant gratification world, Meddlers teach us that some of life's best pleasures are worth waiting for. Plus, they're conversation starters that will have your neighbors asking questions all season long. Ground elder, Opium Poppy, might represent the most misunderstood vegetable in history. Today, we call it bishop's weed, or hanafot in Norwegian, and it features on every catalog of invasive garden nuisances, requiring immediate destruction. However, archaeological records from Viking-age locations reveal a different narrative. This perennial with compound leaves and edible shoots was actually cultivated as a garden plant. In Bergen, Norway, it was termed tiskerkål, or German cabbage, and has been utilized as a pot herb for over 1,000 years. Ground elder essentially represents nature's method of offering complementary food, and modern gardeners are too stubborn to accept the offering. This plant spreads more rapidly than rumors in a small community, demands zero maintenance, and generates vitamin-rich greens throughout the entire season. Vikings consumed the young leaves raw or prepared them like spinach. The plant grows quickly, tolerates frost, and contains abundant vitamins A and C. Medieval doctors valued ground elder as an herb against gout, which explains its Latin designation podagraria. Vikings recognized its worth as a dependable perennial green that could nourish families when other vegetables became scarce. The plant requires no cultivation beyond containing its spread, making it perfect for communities that needed food security without constant gardening work. Modern agriculture has declared war on ground elder with chemical herbicides, labeling this nutritious plant as a nuisance. Meanwhile, we pay premium prices for organic spinach and kale at grocery stores. Ground elder is the ultimate revenge plant. We tried to kill it, but it just keeps coming back, offering us free nutrition while we're too proud to take the hint. If you are enjoying Raiding the Past with us, then give a nod to your inner Viking. Pillage that like button and subscribe for more journeys into Midgard living. Sorb Apple, the secret weapon of ancient cider makers. Don't let the name fool you. Sorb apples aren't really apples at all, but they were the secret ingredient that made Viking cider legendary. These small, firm fruits from the mountain ash family added complexity and strength to fermented drinks that modern ciders can only dream of achieving. Viking farmers didn't care about botanical technicalities, they cared about results. When sorb apples were added to regular apples during fermentation, something magical happened. The natural tannins and unique sugars in sorb apples created drinks with incredible depth and a natural preservation quality that kept them fresh for months. What made sorb apples truly special was their timing. They ripened late in the season when other fruits were finished, extending the harvest period and providing fresh fruit well into winter. The trees themselves were incredibly hardy, surviving in mountainous regions where regular apple trees couldn't grow. The flavor of fresh sorb apples is quite tart and astringent, but this transforms completely during fermentation or cooking. Viking cooks used them in preserves and baked goods, where their high pectin content helped create perfect textures without added thickeners. For modern homesteaders and cider makers, sorb apples represent a lost opportunity. These trees require almost no care once established, resist most diseases that plague regular apple trees, and provide fruit that can transform ordinary cider into something extraordinary. They're like having a secret ingredient that your great-grandmother knew but somehow got forgotten. The trees themselves are beautiful additions to any landscape. They produce clusters of white flowers in spring, followed by colorful berries that attract beneficial birds. In autumn, the leaves turn brilliant colors that rival any ornamental tree. It's fruit production and landscaping rolled into one hearty package. Growing sorb apples today means connecting with centuries of brewing tradition while creating something unique in your own backyard. These aren't fruits you'll find at the farmer's market. They're treasures you'll have to grow yourself to experience. Here's where things become fascinating. Celery, but not the variety we know today. Vikings were cultivating the original wild celery, Opium gravelans, and archaeological discoveries from Danish locations like Hedeby and Viborg confirm they were growing it over 1,000 years ago. This wasn't the watery, bland celery stalks we recognize today. This was celery with genuine nutrition and robust flavor. This fragrant plant from the Apiaceae family originates from European wetlands, and Vikings primarily cultivated it for the nutrient-concentrated seeds and leaves, not the stalks. The seeds flavored broths and cakes, delivering intense seasoning that modern bouillon cubes attempt to replicate but never equal. The leaves and root collar enhanced stews as both flavoring and medicine. Medieval documentation describes celery as both a seasoning and a health tonic, recognizing that it provided more than mere flavor. This ancient variety was remarkably cold-hardy and drought-resistant, flourishing in Nordic marshes where modern vegetables would perish. Vikings had homegrown flavoring that could survive anything nature threw at it. What we did was replace this hardy survivor with modern celery that is mostly water and needs perfect greenhouse conditions to grow. The old varieties, including leaf celery and celeriac, fell from favor as true stalk celery became popular. Today, most cooks don't even know these original varieties exist, except for celeriac in specialty gardens. It's like trading a wolf for a poodle, technically the same species, but completely different capabilities. Vikings had reliable, flavorful plants that enhanced their food while providing essential nutrients. We settled for vegetables that look pretty, but provide little nutrition and need constant care. Saskatoon Berry, the prairie powerhouse. While European Vikings were mastering their preservation techniques, Native Americans across the Atlantic were cultivating their own superfruit, Saskatoon berries. These small, blue-purple fruits might look like blueberries, but they pack even more nutritional punch and grow in conditions where blueberries fail. What made Saskatoon berries remarkable was their protein content. Unlike most fruits, which are primarily sugar and water, Saskatoons contain significant amounts of protein, fat, and fiber. A single cup provided enough energy to sustain hard physical work for hours, making them essential for people who needed 4,000 calories daily just to survive. The reliability of Saskatoon bushes was legendary. Even in years when frost killed other crops, these hardy plants stubbornly produced fruit. They could survive prairie winters, summer droughts, and poor soil that would defeat other fruit plants. For communities living on the edge of survival, this dependability meant the difference between feast and famine. The preservation qualities were equally impressive. Saskatoon berries could be dried and stored for years without losing their nutritional value. Many communities kept emergency stores of dried Saskatoons to ward off starvation during crop failures or harsh winters. They were like having a natural insurance policy against hunger. For modern gardeners, Saskatoon berries offer something unique, a native North American superfruit that's perfectly adapted to local conditions. These bushes thrive in areas where other fruits struggle, requiring minimal water and care once established. They're perfect for sustainable, low-maintenance gardening. The flavor is complex and satisfying, sweeter than blueberries with hints of almond and cherry. Fresh Saskatoons are delicious eaten out of hand, while dried ones make excellent trail snacks or additions to baked goods. They're versatile enough for both fresh eating and cooking applications. The bushes themselves are beautiful landscape plants. They produce masses of white flowers in spring, colorful berries in summer, and brilliant fall foliage. They're also excellent for wildlife, providing food for birds while their flowers support beneficial pollinators. Chicory, Chicorium intybus, might appear like a simple roadside weed with its pale blue flowers, but charred chicory seeds at Norse archaeological locations tell a completely different story. This bitter-tasting plant from the aster family was deliberately cultivated by Vikings who understood something we've forgotten. Bitter flavors actually benefit your health. The young leaves were consumed as a bitter salad green or pot herb, supplying valuable nutrients during the sparse months of winter and early spring. Vikings also roasted the roots into a coffee-like beverage, a practice that remained widespread across Europe for centuries. The plant served dual purposes as both food and medicine, used to support digestion in communities that understood the relationship between bitter foods and digestive wellness. Modern chemical analysis has revealed what Vikings knew instinctively. Chicory is packed with inulin fiber and antioxidants that health experts now recognize as superfoods. But here's the amazing part. Chicory thrives on poor soil and tolerates heat and drought better than most vegetables. It's basically the honey badger of the plant world, growing in conditions that would kill pampered modern crops. We abandoned this climate-resilient superfood because it tasted too interesting for modern palates that prefer bland vegetables. Chicory lost ground to milder leafy vegetables and commercial coffee, becoming relegated to roadside weeds that most people ignore. Today, it's seldom grown intentionally, despite being more nutritious and climate-resistant than the vegetables we struggle to grow in perfect conditions. Sometimes being tough and nutritious doesn't pay off in the popularity contest of modern agriculture. We chose convenience and mild flavors over nutrition and resilience, losing a plant that could actually improve our health while growing itself. Service tree, the 30-year investment that pays forever. Patience isn't just a virtue with service trees, it's a requirement. These remarkable trees take up to 30 years before they produce their first harvest. But once they start, they can feed families for centuries. Viking farmers planted service trees not for themselves, but for their children and grandchildren. The wait is worth it. Service tree fruits look like small brown pears and have an incredibly long storage life. Harvested hard in autumn, they're stored in straw until they soften and develop a taste similar to dates mixed with baked apples. Properly stored service fruits could last until the following summer, providing fresh fruit when nothing else was available. What made service trees so valuable wasn't just their fruit, it was their reliability. These trees are virtually indestructible once established, surviving droughts, floods, and temperatures that would kill other fruit trees. They were living insurance policies against famine, providing food security that lasted for generations. The wood from service trees was equally prized. It's incredibly hard and durable, used for making tools, weapons, and even parts for medieval crossbows. A single tree provided both food and materials, making it one of the most valuable plants a family could own. For modern gardeners willing to think long-term, service trees offer something unique, a legacy planting that will benefit future generations. These trees can live for over 500 years, meaning a tree planted today could still be feeding families in the year 2500. It's the ultimate in sustainable gardening. The fruits themselves are nutritional powerhouses, packed with vitamin C, antioxidants, and minerals that were crucial for winter health. Viking families who had access to service fruits were noticeably healthier during the lean months when fresh produce was scarce. Service trees also have incredible ornamental value. They produce beautiful white flowers in spring, attractive fruits in autumn, and their leaves turn brilliant colors before dropping. Even without the fruit, they're stunning landscape trees that provide shade and beauty for centuries. Garden Orachch, Atriplex hortensis, proves that Vikings maintained more colorful and nutritious diets than most modern families. Archaeological evidence from the 10th and 11th century Scandinavian locations shows they were growing this leafy green in varieties that have completely vanished from modern gardens. This robust plant, from the goosefoot family, originated in Eastern Europe but adapted perfectly in Norway, where Vikings recognized its value for challenging growing conditions. Orachch is essentially spinach's more interesting and resilient relative, available in red, green, and purple varieties that would make any contemporary salad social media worthy. What made Orachch truly Viking-worthy was its ability to mature quickly and provide early spring greens when vitamin-rich foods were desperately scarce. Vikings could harvest fresh, colorful leaves while the rest of Europe was still eating stored grain and preserved meat. The plant tolerates salty and dry soil, making it perfect for coastal settlements where other vegetables would struggle. The leaves were boiled or eaten raw like spinach, but with higher levels of calcium and iron than most modern greens provide. Medieval gardeners valued Orachch specifically because it could grow in marginal conditions where other vegetables failed, providing reliable nutrition from problem soils. By modern times, Orachch had fallen out of use as spinach and kale became dominant. In Scandinavia, it's now rare in gardens, despite being perfectly adapted to northern climates. We replaced this colorful, hardy green with vegetables that need perfect soil and constant care. It's like choosing black and white television when you could have color. Technically functional, but missing all the good stuff. Hackberry, the traveler's energy bar. Long before energy bars existed, hackberries provided concentrated nutrition for dangerous journeys through mountains and deserts. These small, sweet fruits grew on trees so tough they could survive drought, floods, and even fires, making them reliable food sources when nothing else was available. Viking survival guides would have read simply, "Find a hackberry tree, don't die, thank the hackberry tree." These trees were living insurance policies against starvation, their deep root systems making them nearly impossible to kill, even during the worst environmental conditions. The fruits were typically eaten fresh or dried for travel rations. Some regions ground dried hackberries into powder for nutritious drinks, or to stretch flour supplies during hard times. It was like having a natural supplement that grew on trees, providing quick energy when it was most needed. What made hackberries special was their reliability. While other fruit trees might fail due to weather or disease, hackberry trees stubbornly produced fruit year after year. They were the ultimate low-maintenance food source, requiring no care once established, providing decades of nutrition. For modern preppers and homesteaders, hackberries offer something valuable: food security that doesn't depend on perfect growing conditions. These trees thrive in areas with poor soil, limited water, and extreme weather that would kill other fruit trees. The trees are also excellent for wildlife habitat. The fruits attract numerous bird species, while the dense branching provides nesting sites and shelter. It's like having a wildlife sanctuary that also produces human food. The nutritional profile is impressive for such a small fruit. Hackberries provide quick-release sugars for immediate energy, along with minerals and vitamins that support overall health. They're nature's energy bars, perfectly packaged for on-the-go nutrition. Sweet Sicily, Maris odorata, was so exceptional in medieval Bergen that locals called it the King of Denmark. This anise-scented herb served as the Vikings' substitute for sugar, providing natural sweetness centuries before refined sugar reached northern Europe. Every component of this plant, from the umbellifer family, delivered gentle sweetness with a distinctive licorice flavor. Vikings used the leaves and stems to sweeten soups and stews, the seeds as flavoring agents, and the roots as sweet seasoning that made harsh winter meals more enjoyable. It was prized enough that monastery gardens specifically cultivated Sweet Sicily, and Norwegian confectioners made candy called Kongen of Denmark, flavored with this remarkable plant. What made Sweet Sicily perfect for Viking settlements was its tolerance for shade and ability to naturalize in woodland clearings. Many Norse communities were tucked into forest areas where full-sun crops wouldn't thrive, but Sweet Sicily flourished in partial shade. The plant is rich in essential oils and nutrients, providing both flavor and medicinal benefits in one package. Archaeological evidence from western Norway shows Sweet Sicily was commonly grown in medieval gardens, valued both for its sweetening properties and its role in folk medicine. The plant could reduce dependence on precious honey stores while adding complex flavors to simple foods. With the advent of imported sugar and artificial flavorings, Sweet Sicily gradually disappeared from European gardens. It survived mainly in old monastery sites and traditional herb gardens, but most modern cooks have never experienced its unique flavor. We abandoned this natural sweetener for processed alternatives that provide empty calories instead of nutrients and medicinal compounds. Cornelian Cherry, the monastery medicine cabinet. Medieval monks knew something we've forgotten. Cornelian cherries weren't just food, they were medicine. These bright red fruits from the dogwood family were so valued for their healing properties that monastery gardens across Europe always included at least one Cornelian cherry tree. Despite the name, Cornelian cherries aren't related to regular cherries at all. They're small, oval fruits that ripen to a brilliant red color and pack more vitamin C than oranges. This made them incredibly valuable for preventing scurvy and supporting immune systems during long, dark winters. The medicinal uses were extensive. Viking herbalists used Cornelian cherries to treat stomach problems, fevers, and digestive issues. Modern research has confirmed many of these traditional uses, finding that the fruits contain compounds with anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial properties. What made Cornelian cherries special for Viking farmers was their timing. They ripened in late summer, when many other fruits were already finished, extending the fresh fruit season and providing nutrition when it was most needed. The trees themselves were incredibly hardy, surviving harsh winters that killed more tender fruit trees. The flavor is unique, tart and slightly astringent when fresh, but perfect for jams, jellies, and preserves. Viking cooks used them to make syrups that could be stored year-round, providing both flavor and medicine in one package. The high pectin content made them perfect for natural preservation. For today's health-conscious gardeners, Cornelian cherries offer something grocery stores can't provide: fresh, local superfruits that grow in your own backyard. These trees require minimal care once established and can produce fruit for over 100 years. The trees are also beautiful ornamentals. They bloom very early in spring, often while snow is still on the ground, providing the first flowers of the season. The bright red fruits are attractive to beneficial birds, while the fall foliage provides beautiful autumn color. Growing Cornelian cherries today means having access to a traditional superfruit that's been largely forgotten by modern agriculture. It's like having a piece of monastery wisdom growing in your own garden. Horseradish, Armoracia rusticana, was essentially the Viking equivalent of a nuclear-powered spice collection. Medieval records and archaeological evidence demonstrate it was valued both as food and medicine, providing preservation capabilities that could extend stored meat life through long winters. The fiery white root was grated as a condiment for stews and sauces, delivering intense flavor that could awaken your taste buds and clear your sinuses permanently. Vikings even consumed the young leaves in salads, though few modern people realize horseradish leaves are edible. The root contained high levels of vitamin C and antimicrobial compounds, making it essentially nature's antibiotic that happened to taste like concentrated fire. What made horseradish truly Viking-worthy was its incredible hardiness. This plant survives in growing zones 2 through 9, spreads by root division, and once established, provides a lifetime supply of preservative and medicine. Vikings could plant it once and have generations of flavor and food preservation capability. Medieval doctors prescribed horseradish tea for purifying blood and calming stomach problems, understanding its medicinal properties long before modern science identified the compounds responsible for its effects. The plant's antimicrobial properties made it valuable for treating colds and digestive ailments in communities without access to modern medicine. Most modern gardeners buy jarred horseradish instead of growing this virtually maintenance-free plant. It's like buying bottled water when you have a perfectly good well in your backyard. Vikings had figured out how to grow their own preservatives, flavor enhancers, and medicines all in one indestructible plant, Barberry. The banned berry that deserves a comeback. Here's a fruit with a criminal past. Barberry bushes were actually outlawed in many places because people believed they caused wheat rust disease. The irony? They were absolutely right. But that doesn't mean we should have banned this incredible fruit forever. Barberry bushes do host wheat rust, a fungal disease that can devastate grain crops. Viking farmers figured this out centuries before modern science confirmed it, making them accidental agricultural detectives. But before the bans, barberries were kitchen superstars, providing tart, flavorful fruits that added punch to Viking cuisine. The bright red berries are incredibly sour when fresh. Think cranberries, but more intense. This sourness made them perfect for cutting through rich, fatty foods, especially game meats that were common in Viking diets. Cooks used them much like we use cranberries today, but with more complex, wine-like flavors. What made barberries valuable wasn't just their culinary uses, they were also important medicine. The berries contain berberine, a compound that really does fight infections and support digestive health. Viking herbalists used barberry preparations to treat everything from stomach problems to skin conditions. For modern gardeners, barberries offer incredible ornamental value along with their edible fruits. The bushes are covered in thorns that make them excellent security plantings, while their bright red berries and colorful fall foliage provide year-round interest. They're like having beautiful landscaping that also produces food. The key to growing barberries today is location. Keep them well away from any grain crops or areas where wheat rust could be a problem. In suburban and urban settings, this usually isn't an issue, making barberries perfect for city gardeners who want something unique and productive. The nutritional benefits are impressive. Barberries are packed with vitamin C, antioxidants, and the beneficial compound berberine. They're like having a natural pharmacy growing in your yard, providing both food and medicine in one thorny package. Burdock, Arctium lapa, might be the most unjustly criticized plant in gardening history. Those sticky burrs that attach to your clothing and irritate hikers are actually protecting one of the most nutritious root vegetables Vikings ever cultivated. Historical records confirm that medieval gardens specifically grew burdock for its massive edible roots. The Japanese still understand what we've forgotten. Burdock root, which they call gobo, is a culinary delicacy with an earthy, complex flavor. It's loaded with inulin and trace minerals that provide significant nutritional benefits. Vikings also ate the young leaf stalks and flowering shoots like asparagus, making use of multiple parts of the plant. This biennial plant, with very large leaves, grows easily on waste ground and poor soil, essentially turning marginal land into food production. It's the ultimate permaculture plant, improving soil structure while producing nutritious food, and accomplishing all of this without any help from gardeners. The fleshy taproot can grow quite large and has a delicate, slightly sweet flavor when properly prepared. Vikings understood that beneath the plant's aggressive exterior was a valuable food source that could thrive where other crops failed. The root is rich in fiber and provides nutrients that were especially valuable during winter months when fresh vegetables were scarce. We declared war on burdock because of its burrs, essentially banning a nutritious food source because it was too clingy. Modern dating apps could learn something from burdock's attachment strategies. But meanwhile, we're missing out on a hardy, nutritious vegetable that requires no special care and improves the soil while it grows. Mulberry, the Silk Road superfruit. Mulberry trees were planted everywhere in medieval Europe, but not primarily for their delicious berries. They were grown to feed silkworms, making silk production possible across the continent. The juicy dark berries were considered a bonus, though what a bonus they were. The connection between mulberries and silk made these trees incredibly valuable. Laws required landowners to plant specific numbers of mulberry trees based on their property size. Some places even taxed people who cut down mulberry trees without permission. The trees were literally worth their weight in silk, but the berries themselves were treasures. Mulberries ripened gradually over several weeks rather than all at once, providing a steady supply of fresh fruit throughout summer. The dark juice was so intense it stained everything purple, leading to the advice, never wear your best clothes while picking mulberries. What made mulberries special was their incredible productivity. A single mature tree could produce hundreds of pounds of berries annually, feeding entire families, while still providing enough leaves for silkworm production. It was like having a fruit tree and a textile factory in one package. The nutritional benefits are remarkable. Mulberries are packed with vitamin C, iron, and antioxidants that support immune function and energy production. They're also high in resveratrol, the same compound that makes red wine heart healthy. For modern gardeners, mulberries offer incredible value. These trees grow quickly, produce fruit within a few years, and can live for centuries with minimal care. They're perfect for anyone who wants maximum fruit production with minimum effort. The trees themselves are beautiful and functional. They provide excellent shade, attract beneficial birds, and their large leaves create natural compost when they fall. It's landscaping that pays for itself in fruit production. Growing mulberries today means having access to a fruit that's rarely available commercially due to its short shelf life. These berries are best eaten fresh from the tree, making them perfect for home gardens, where you can enjoy them at peak ripeness. Lamb's quarters, Chenopodium album, is essentially quinoa's European relative, and Viking settlement locations are filled with its seeds, proving this was a staple food rather than merely a backup during difficult times. This rapidly growing annual from the goosefoot family was one of the original superfoods, except it grew like a weed and required zero cultivation. Vikings consumed the young shoots and leaves like spinach, harvesting them throughout the growing season for fresh greens. The protein-rich seeds were ground into meal, providing high-quality nutrition that rivals modern quinoa. Recent studies have shown that lamb's quarters contains more protein than cabbage, more iron than spinach, and more calcium than kale. Archaeological evidence indicates this plant was regularly consumed across Viking territories, with seeds found in food waste pits and cooking areas. The plant is exceptionally easy to grow, self-seeding and producing abundant greens and seeds without any care from gardeners. It's basically a self-maintaining food system that volunteers to feed families year after year. What makes this especially interesting is that lamb's quarters is closely related to quinoa, which we now import from South America at premium prices. Meanwhile, this nutritious native plant grows wild across North America and Europe, dismissed as a common weed by people who don't recognize its value. Modern agriculture has declared lamb's quarters a pest species, spraying herbicides to eliminate what Vikings considered a valuable food source. We pay high prices for imported superfoods while calling this nutritional powerhouse a weed and trying to kill it. Rowan Berry, the guardian against evil. Medieval families planted rowan trees, not just for their bright red berries, but for protection against witches and evil spirits. These trees stood guard over homes, barns, and village squares across Europe, their star-shaped berry bottoms serving as natural pentagrams that supposedly offered magical protection. While we might smile at the superstitions, rowan berries were genuinely valuable for survival. The berries are intensely bitter when raw, so bitter that even birds avoid them until after the first frost softens their harsh tannins. But this bitterness transformed into something wonderful when properly prepared. Viking cooks discovered that cooking rowan berries created delicious jams and jellies with incredible keeping qualities. The high vitamin C content made these preserves valuable winter medicine, helping prevent scurvy during months when fresh produce was unavailable. The berries were like having a natural pharmacy growing in your yard. The trees themselves were incredibly hardy, surviving in harsh mountain conditions where other fruit trees couldn't grow. They required no care once established and could live for centuries, providing both fruit and supposed protection for generations of families. For modern gardeners, Rowan trees offer something special: a connection to ancient traditions while providing genuine practical benefits. These trees are perfect for difficult sites with poor soil or harsh weather conditions. They're like having a piece of folklore that actually produces useful fruit. The ornamental value is outstanding. Rowan trees produce clusters of white flowers in spring, bright red berries in autumn, and beautiful fall foliage. They're stunning landscape trees that provide four-season interest while producing useful fruit. The berries make excellent jellies and preserves when properly prepared. The key is waiting until after frost to harvest them, or artificially freezing them to break down the harsh tannins. The resulting preserves have a unique, complex flavor that can't be found in any store. Good King Henry, Blidum bonus henricus, was the Vikings' version of a three-course meal growing in one plant. This perennial from the goosefoot family was called poor man's asparagus, but it was actually richer in nutrients than the expensive vegetables we purchase today. The plant provided asparagus-like shoots in spring that were blanched and eaten as a delicacy. Through summer, the succulent leaves were used like spinach in soups and stews. Even the flower buds were edible when boiled, giving Viking families multiple harvests from a single plant. Medieval sources describe it as being prized through the Middle Ages, before virtually disappearing from cultivation by the 20th century. What made Good King Henry perfect for Viking settlements was that it returned every year without replanting and tolerated poor soil conditions. It was the ultimate lazy gardener's dream: plant it once and harvest for decades. The plant is high in vitamins A and C and easy to propagate from seed or root division. Recent studies have revealed that Good King Henry contains 3 times more omega-3 fatty acids than iceberg lettuce, and significant amounts of iron and vitamin C. Vikings were getting superior nutrition from a plant that required virtually no maintenance once established. We abandoned this reliable perennial for annual vegetables that need replanting every year, constant care, and perfect growing conditions. It's like canceling a subscription service that delivers exactly what you need and choosing to manually reorder the same thing every month at higher prices. Slow, the gin berry that transforms spirits. If you've ever enjoyed sloe gin, you've tasted the magic of one of Europe's most important wild fruits. Slowberries are so sour and astringent when fresh that they'll turn your mouth inside out, but steep them in alcohol and something miraculous happens. They create one of the world's most beloved liqueurs. Sloe bushes, blackthorn, served double duty in Viking farming. The dense, thorny growth created natural fencing that kept livestock contained while producing useful fruit. The wood was so hard and durable, it became the standard material for making walking sticks and cudgels. It was like having security fencing that also produced valuable materials. The berries had serious medicinal uses beyond their famous alcoholic applications. Slow tonics treated everything from upset stomachs to fever, while the high vitamin C content made them valuable winter medicine. Medieval hospitals often maintained special blackthorn gardens specifically for making remedies. What made sloes special was their timing. Traditional wisdom held that they should only be harvested after the first frost, which helped break down the harsh tannins and made them more usable. Clever farmers learned to cheat this system by picking early and freezing the berries themselves, a Viking life hack that still works today. For modern gardeners, sloe bushes offer incredible value as both security plants and fruit producers. The thorny growth creates impenetrable barriers that deter both animals and unwanted visitors, while the berries provide ingredients for homemade liqueurs and preserves. The transformation that occurs when sloes are steeped in alcohol is remarkable. The harsh, bitter berries release deep purple color and complex flavors that create liqueurs with incredible depth and character. It's like having a distillery ingredient growing wild in your hedgerow. The bushes are also beautiful in their own thorny way. They bloom very early in spring, covering themselves with white flowers before the leaves appear. The dark berries provide food for wildlife, while the dense growth offers nesting sites for beneficial birds. Pignut, Conopodium majus, proves that Vikings knew exactly where to locate the hidden treasures in their landscape. This plant from the carrot family conceals sweet, crisp tubers underground that taste like a cross between potatoes and hazelnuts. Place names across Norway still reflect Viking familiarity with jardnot or earth nuts. The small tubers, only 6 to 8 millimeters across, were eaten raw or boiled like tiny potatoes. 18th century accounts note that Norwegian children were still digging up these sweet tubers as snacks, and during World War I, they were even used as almond substitutes in baking. This tells us that the knowledge of pignut persisted in Scandinavian culture long after the Viking Age ended. Archaeological evidence suggests Vikings valued pignut as an emergency food source that grew wild in forest edges and shady areas, where other root vegetables wouldn't thrive. The tubers are nutritionally rich in fiber and starch, providing concentrated energy that was especially valuable during lean periods. What made pignut particularly valuable was its ability to thrive in marginal conditions that would challenge other crops. Vikings could harvest these nuts from woodland areas without dedicating prime agricultural land to their cultivation. The plant essentially provided free food from spaces that weren't suitable for other vegetables. We abandoned this genuine Nordic root vegetable for mass-produced potatoes and imported nuts. It's like having a secret stash of natural candy hidden in your backyard, but choosing to buy processed snacks from the convenience store instead. Checker fruit, the pub tree legacy. Step into any English pub called The Checkers, and you're walking into a piece of forgotten fruit history. Checker fruits from wild service trees were once so important to medieval drinking culture that countless taverns were named after them. These small, brown fruits, speckled with lighter checks, were the secret ingredient behind some of the most popular medieval drinks. Before hops became common for flavoring beer, checkers gave drinks a unique tangy flavor and natural preservative qualities. Tavern keepers would add dried or fermented checkers to barrels of ale, extending shelf life while adding distinctive taste that medieval drinkers craved. It was like having a natural flavor enhancer and preservative in one package. The fruits themselves look similar to small pears, but have a completely different flavor profile. They're tart, with hints of date and raisin when fully ripened. But like Meddlers, they need to blet before eating. This process converted harsh tannins into natural sugars, creating complex flavors that couldn't be achieved any other way. Many medieval villages had a special checker tree in the town square, or near the local tavern. These trees served as community gathering spots, and during harvest season, the whole village would collect the fruits to make community drinks for celebrations and festivals. It was social networking, medieval style. For modern craft beverage enthusiasts, checker fruits represent a lost opportunity to create truly unique drinks. These trees are incredibly hardy and long-lived, capable of producing fruit for centuries with minimal care. They're like having a piece of brewing history growing in your backyard. The trees themselves are beautiful landscape additions. They produce white flowers in spring, interesting fruits in autumn, and their leaves turn brilliant colors before dropping. Even without the historical significance, they're attractive ornamental trees that provide wildlife habitat. Growing checker trees today means connecting with centuries of brewing tradition while creating something completely unique. These aren't fruits you'll find at any market. They're treasures. You'll have to grow yourself to experience their remarkable flavors. Before Vikings had access to lemons, they had common sorrel, Rumex acetosa, and the linguistic evidence proves how important this plant was to Norse cuisine. The fact that the Sami people borrowed their word for sorrel from Old Norse shows this tart perennial was a crucial part of Viking food culture. The lemony leaves were added to soups and sauces exactly like we use lemon juice today, providing the sour flavoring that made bland winter foods edible and appetizing. Vikings understood that sour flavors not only improved taste, but also provided crucial vitamin C that prevented scurvy and other nutritional deficiencies. Sorrel is one of the first greens to emerge in spring, arriving exactly when fresh vitamins were desperately needed after long winters of preserved foods. The plant regrows quickly after cutting, providing a continuous supply of tangy seasoning throughout the growing season. It's basically a renewable lemon tree that thrives in northern climates where citrus cannot survive. The high vitamin C content made sorrel especially valuable for seafaring communities that needed protection against scurvy during long voyages. Vikings had solved this nutritional challenge centuries before other maritime cultures figured out the connection between fresh vegetables and sailor health. As trade routes brought imported citrus fruits to northern Europe, Sorrel gradually lost its culinary prominence. Many modern cooks are completely unfamiliar with this native sour green, despite its superior nutrition and perfect adaptation to northern growing conditions. We replaced this reliable native plant with imported citrus that cannot survive our winters and requires long supply chains to reach our tables. Mespilus, the mysterious delicacy. Even Viking farmers couldn't decide if Mespilus was a separate fruit or just a weird variant of the common Meddler. This mysterious cousin confused botanists for centuries, but one thing was certain. It was incredibly rare and prized by those lucky enough to grow it. Mespilus fruits were found mainly in specialized monastery gardens and noble estates, where expert gardeners could provide the specific soil conditions and careful tending these finicky plants required. Having a Mespilus tree was like owning a rare orchid. It showed you had both wealth and horticultural expertise. The fruits went through the same bletting process as Meddlers, but developed even more complex flavors. Medieval texts described the taste as honey wine with cinnamon, suggesting a sophistication that made them worthy of royal feasts and special celebrations. What made Mespilus truly special was its rarity. Unlike other ancient fruits that could be grown by any farmer, Mespilus required specific knowledge and conditions that kept it exclusive to the wealthy and well-connected. It was the medieval equivalent of growing truffles in your backyard. For modern fruit enthusiasts, Mespilus represents the ultimate challenge, growing something so rare that most people have never heard of it. These plants are still available from specialty nurseries, offering the chance to grow a piece of ancient luxury in your own garden. The historical significance alone makes Mespilus worth growing. These are living links to medieval monastery gardens and royal estates, carrying genetic material that's been carefully preserved for over 1,000 years. It's like having a piece of history growing in your yard. The exclusivity continues today. Mespilus fruits are never available commercially, making them the ultimate in rare, homegrown delicacies. Growing them successfully puts you in an exclusive club of gardeners who've mastered one of history's most challenging fruits. Stinging nettle, Urtica dioica, was so important to Vikings that they buried bags of nettle seeds with their dead, proving this plant was valued enough to take into the afterlife. The Oseberg burial, one of the most famous Viking archaeological sites, included nettle seeds among the grave goods. When cooked or dried, nettles lose their sting and become one of the most nutritious greens on the planet. They're loaded with iron, calcium, and vitamins, essentially providing a multivitamin supplement that grows wild everywhere. Vikings used them like spinach for soups and made medicinal teas that provided both nutrition and healing compounds. What made nettle perfect for Viking communities was its incredible reliability and hardiness. This plant is extremely easy to grow, actually harder to stop from growing than to cultivate. It provides early spring greens when nothing else is available and continues producing through the growing season. The plant survives harsh winters that kill other vegetables, returning vigorously each spring. Medieval physicians recognized nettle's cooling properties and used it for skin irritations, while nettle tea was prescribed for fever and inflammation. Vikings understood both the nutritional and medicinal value of this abundant plant that required no cultivation or special care. Modern people spend money on vitamin supplements, while this superfood grows wild in backyards, vacant lots, and forest edges. Nettles are basically nature's way of offering free medicine and nutrition, but most people are too afraid of a minor sting to accept the gift. Lovage, Levisticum officinale, was the Vikings' secret weapon for transforming bland food into something amazing. This tall, perennial herb provided celery-like flavoring that was 10 times more potent than anything available today. The plant was likely brought north by medieval monks and quickly became a staple in Viking-era gardens. Vikings used the leaves and young stems as seasoning in soups, stews, and broths, understanding that the flavor was so intense that one sprig could enhance an entire pot of food. Medieval sources describe lovage as both a culinary herb and a digestive aid, recognizing its medicinal properties alongside its flavoring capabilities. This remarkable plant is extremely hardy and multi-purpose, growing over 6 feet tall and living for decades, while providing massive amounts of seasoning from very little garden space. The deep roots actually mine nutrients from deep in the soil, improving garden fertility while producing food. It's the rare plant that makes your garden better while feeding your family. Monastery records from the 13th century describe lovage as a remedy for troubles of the stomach and kidney complaints, showing that medieval herbalists understood its medicinal applications. A single lovage plant could provide a family with seasoning and medicine for 20 years or more. We replaced this flavor powerhouse with commercial bouillon cubes full of artificial ingredients and preservatives. It's like trading a professional chef for processed convenience foods. Technically, both provide flavor, but the quality difference is enormous. Vikings had figured out how to grow their own gourmet seasonings that also improved their health. Crab apple, the hard-working ancestor. If modern apples are spoiled rich kids who get everything handed to them, crab apples are their hard-working ancestors who walked uphill both ways in the snow. These tough little fruits might make you pucker when eaten fresh, but they were the workhorses of medieval kitchens and the genetic foundation of all our modern apple varieties. Too sour for eating fresh, crab apples shined when transformed through cooking. Their extreme tartness and high pectin content made them perfect for preserves and jellies that set naturally without added thickeners. Ancient cooks mixed crab apple sauce with meat to cut through fatty dishes, using their acidity to balance rich flavors. The juice was fermented into potent cider that kept well through winter. Even the wood was valuable, prized for its hardness and beautiful grain in tool handles and small wooden implements. A single crab apple tree provided food, drink, and materials, making it one of the most useful plants a family could own. What made crab apples truly special was their incredible hardiness. These trees could survive conditions that would kill pampered, modern apple varieties. They required no spraying, no special care, and no perfect soil conditions. They were the ultimate low-maintenance fruit trees. For modern gardeners dealing with climate change and unpredictable weather, crab apples offer something valuable: fruit production that doesn't depend on perfect conditions. These trees adapt to whatever nature throws at them, providing reliable harvests when other fruits fail. The genetic diversity in crab apples is remarkable. They're the wild ancestors of all our modern apples, containing genetic material that could be crucial for developing future varieties resistant to diseases and climate challenges. Growing them is like maintaining a genetic library for future generations. The ornamental value is outstanding. Crab apple trees produce masses of beautiful flowers in spring, attractive fruits in autumn, and many varieties offer excellent fall color. They're stunning landscape trees that happen to produce useful fruit. Wild strawberry, the tiny treasure. Our final forgotten fruit isn't forgotten at all. It's hiding in plain sight in forests and meadows across the continent. Wild strawberries are the tiny ancestors of our modern berries, but what they lack in size, they make up for in incredible flavor intensity that puts grocery store berries to shame. Medieval foragers knew exactly where to find these tiny treasures. Wild strawberries were among the first fresh fruits of spring, providing vitamin C and natural sugars when winter stores were running low. The leaves were equally valuable, brewed into teas that treated everything from digestive problems to skin conditions. The flavor difference between wild and cultivated strawberries is remarkable. Wild berries are intensely sweet and aromatic, with complex flavors that seem impossible from such small fruits. It's like comparing a fine wine to grape juice. They're technically the same fruit, but the experience is completely different. What made wild strawberries special was their availability. Unlike tree fruits that required planting and years of waiting, wild strawberries could be found and enjoyed immediately. They were nature's gift to anyone who knew where to look, providing free nutrition and medicine to those who needed it most. For modern gardeners, wild strawberries offer something unique: ground cover that produces food. These plants spread naturally, creating living mulch that suppresses weeds while providing edible berries. They're perfect for naturalizing in woodland gardens or difficult areas where other plants struggle. The plants themselves are beautiful and functional. They produce small white flowers throughout the growing season, followed by tiny red berries that are incredibly flavorful. The three-part leaves turn beautiful colors in autumn, providing year-round interest. Growing wild strawberries today means having access to flavors that money can't buy. These berries are too small and delicate for commercial production, making them exclusive to those who grow their own. It's like having a secret treasure hidden in your garden. Finally, we come to Opium Poppy, Papaver somniferum. And before you worry, we're talking about the seeds, not the other compounds. Viking-age sites like Viborg have yielded poppy seeds in latrine deposits, proving Vikings grew and consumed these tiny nutritional powerhouses that are completely non-narcotic and incredibly healthy. Vikings used the tiny black seeds in breads and pressed them for oil, much like we use other oil seeds today. The seeds are rich in healthy fats, calcium, and fiber, providing essential nutrients that were especially valuable during winter months when other protein sources were limited. While opium might have been used medicinally by monks for pain relief, Vikings were primarily interested in the seeds as food. Archaeological evidence shows that poppy cultivation was deliberate and organized, not accidental. The seeds found in waste deposits indicate regular consumption rather than occasional use, suggesting that poppies were a standard part of the Viking diet, rather than a luxury item. Heritage varieties of opium poppy could still be grown today as annual oilseed crops, providing local seed oil and flavoring that rivals imported alternatives. The seeds are essentially a complete protein source that grows as an attractive annual flower, combining nutrition with beauty in the garden. We have made this plant so taboo that most people don't even realize the seeds are edible and nutritious. Meanwhile, we import similar seeds from other countries while ignoring this local option that our ancestors successfully cultivated for both food and oil production. These ancient plants aren't just historical curiosities. They're answers to modern agricultural problems we're desperately trying to solve today. What's amazing is how many of these hardy varieties are still available through heritage seed sources and specialty growers waiting for us to rediscover their incredible potential. If you enjoyed raiding the past with us, then give a nod to your inner Viking, pillage that like button, and subscribe for more journeys into Midgard living.